I want to create a new vision for myself. And my block of thought limits my vision and automatically puts me wanting and desiring from a position of lack because of that block of thought. That's
a past experience that says, no, I can't.
I'm sure my whole dreaming, my whole wanting and desiring, and forward creative growth. I'm saying forward because I don't know how to put this any other way.
It all is forward.
Right, is based on what experience and what belief system I have now, or what block of thought I have now. How do I get my inner being and my consciousness? How do I create a vision, a new vision that lifts my consciousness above my block of thought?
Very well stated. You start out in less specific, more general terms, because it is the specific terms that draw forth the specific block of thought that gets in your way.
Example.
As you say, generally, and do not mistaken general and think it is less powerful, it is not. As you say in a sort of general statement, I seek prosperity. I want to feel prosperous. That statement does not evoke any negative experience from you. As you say, I want to have a lot of money, that statement is still general enough that it doesn't either. As you say, I want to be a millionaire, you may begin evoking some negative thoughts because that's too much money for you to want. Or if you say, I want $10,000 and I want it tomorrow, it is so specific that your experience hasn't shown you that it's possible, and so now you're back in the realm of hoping again. You're hoping for it, but that doubt is pretty powerful in there. When you find yourself, you see, what you're wanting to find is and if you're paying attention to the way that you feel, then you're always finding your balance. And so your balance is continually escalating into a more magnificent place. In other words, you start generally, and anything that is conflicting comes up, but it is subtle enough you are able to deal with it. In other words, as you say, I want prosperity. If it gives you a little twinge of negative emotion, you say, wait a minute, what is this? Well, what does prosperity mean to me? Well, I mean, I just want to have all that I'm wanting flowing to me. Well, that doesn't ring any warning bells. You can accept that. Where if you started by saying, I want $10 million and I want it by the end of this year, warning bells go off all over the place because there are so many beliefs within you that simply do not harmonize with that. But if you start there, then what you've heard us say, the gymnast on the balance beam, when he gets out of balance, he does not try to somersault his way back into balance. He steps back and finds his place. So what you are, when we say step back, we don't mean back. We mean step into broader, more general, more allowing place for yourself, at a place where you do not defy yourself so much. In other words, if you say, I want to live happily ever after, that is it brings a good feeling forth to you. But if you say, as you try to define what living happily ever after is, then you start bringing forth the intricacies of the blocks of thought that you don't agree with. You say, I want a tall, dark, handsome, rich man who adores me. And as you begin defining it, then all those elements of doubt start coming forth. Now, you're really going to like this because it goes beyond anything that as deliberate creators we've discussed before to this depth and detail. You cannot really live happily ever after until you are willing to clearly define what that means to you and get rid of all of the little bugaboos that are in your way. But by trying to face all of the bugaboos simultaneously with the specifics of your dream, very often you self-defeat, because all that does is bring up lack, bring up lack, bring up lack. And that is the reason that we have been hammering so hard the Book of Positive Aspects. Because the Book of Positive Aspects puts you in a position where you acknowledge in a rather distorted fashion how good it is which puts you in a position of attracting more of the things that you consider to be good, so you bypass literally the other process. Now let us tell you in a very definitive way what we mean by that. You'll hear it clearly. To have anything, you must want it and believe it. And so the grander your desires, the bigger pill you have to swallow over here, you see. There are two ways of getting those beliefs in line with your desire. One is to keep screaming, "But I want it," which keeps bringing up anything that's getting in your way so that you can deal with it. Works pretty well. Slow. Sometimes you get discouraged and give up first. The other way is by focusing so purely on the positive aspects of what you're living that you are in an absolute state of allowing all things that you consider to be good, which includes all of these desires that you would hammer away at.
Will that also initiate the forward creative process?
Absolutely. The forward creative process is natural. You are in a natural state of growth.
So,
it is a given.
As we become more knowing about the positive state that we are in right now, then the vision will become larger and above the block of thought that we now hold.
Well stated. You see, as you focus upon the positive aspects of what you're living right now, in a very subtle way, you're bridging all of those beliefs from the past, but you're not having to drag them up by the roots and experience the pain of them all over again. You're just modifying them. Your now is becoming so dominant and so powerfully positive that it is just naturally bridging or modifying those existing beliefs that have been in your way. And you know it because it feels good. We watched Jerry and Esther. A friend called, a friend calling to complain, a friend who was at her wit's end. Esther ran away from it because it was too painful to hear. And Jerry talked to her on the telephone. Jerry came back, and Esther said, "I heard what it is about. What did you say to her?" And as Jerry began speaking to Esther what he had said to this friend, Esther felt the relief coming over her. She literally felt the negative knot in her being dissolve, and in its place washed over a feeling of happiness and well-being. That woman's life experience had not changed much in that hour, but her point of attraction certainly did. All of you know the power of feeling good and the detriment of feeling bad. You know that. That's why you pretend you feel good when you feel bad. That's why you try to justify feeling bad. That's why you lie about it to others and to yourself. It is because you recognize its detrimental value at very deep levels, you see. It is the reason when someone calls you wrong, you resist. You want so much to be right, you see. And so, very often, wanting something stimulates all those old memories within you that make you feel bad. And so what you do is you say, "I don't want anyway," because you associate wanting with not feeling good. And so we've decided that there is a faster route for you. You have launched enough intent to keep you busy for 10 lifetimes. If we were to say, "What do you want in a relationship?" you could write a book about it. If we say, "What sort of lifestyle would you like?" you know. And if you cannot define the specifics of it, at least you know what sort of state of being you seek. And so we say, you have spent lifetimes choosing your direction and knowing what you're wanting. And so now, as you just focus upon the positive aspects of what is in your now, that is the swiftest, surest route to magnificent attraction of all sorts of things, you see. As our friend was talking about his decision to go back to work, as he says very specifically, "I want money because it's an integral part of life, and I know that I can get money by doing this specific work." He gets knots in his stomach because even though he knows he can get money that way, he knows he does not want to do that. He is so specific that he is defeating his purpose from the very beginning. And so as he steps back from it and says, "I'm wanting a flow of dollars into my experience, and I am ready to expend some energy for the dollars. No negative emotion yet. I am wanting some new experiences. No negative emotion yet. I am liking the idea of exchanging my talents for dollars. That is really what the physical world is all about. No negative emotion yet. I think I will go back and ask for my old job back. Negative emotion comes barreling forth. Not hard to understand. That's not. And so what does he do when he gets that negative emotion? Backs back from the specific of that to something more general. I'm wanting the dollars. I'm wanting a means of bringing them into my experience. I'm wanting to live happily ever after. You see what we're saying? When you feel the pain of the specific, simply back away from it, because it is easier for you to feel your positive emotion from your broader rather than from your narrower perspective. Until through a process of doing this, back and forth, you will find a very clear, very wonderful route that will take you right to what you want. But very often, you see, always you've heard it said, and we will steal the quote, there is fear in the unknown. We say, why? Why not say there is adventure in the unknown? Why not say there is prosperity in the unknown? Why do you want to make the unknown fearful? Well, it is your negative orientation, you see. What you can't see around the corner, there might be danger lurking. Well, there might be a gold mine lurking too, you see. And so as you begin to train yourself to look for the positive aspects in your now, then you are automatically able to look for the positive aspects in the unknown future, you see. You see how it works?
Can any of us draw, can we actually draw characteristics from people, or does our focus on those characteristics draw with it? We had that already, and now we start creating a broadness of that.
You are not needing to bring the specific person with the characteristics. In other words, you don't need to have known somebody so that you can give them a label and then attract their characteristics. All you have to do is identify the characteristics that you wish to attract, and the one or the many who hold those characteristics or combination of them will be reflected through you. And what happens is you become the creator. In other words, let us see if we can put this into words. Let us say that you have decided that you want to be a magnificent teacher upon this specific subject. And so you identify your audience in your mind, as you have been doing. You see the students there and you see them receiving, and then you say, what I want is, I want to be the perfect vehicle to allow these students to receive this teaching through me. You don't have to say, okay, Fred, I want you to take care of this part, and Alexandra, I want you to take care of this part. You just identify what you want, and you become the funnel through which all of this that you want is focused, so that you are the one that they write about in the history books later on. You are not here as regurgitators, to regurgitate a little bit of this one and a little bit of that one. You are masterful sculptors or creators. You're wanting to define what it is you're wanting to be, have, and do, and then the universe delivers to you the means to do it. And whether you say, in other words, Esther could say, I am not a teacher, Abraham is. I just sit. We hear Esther discounting herself because it's the habit she developed from childhood. I make a very good mouth, she will say. When the truth of it is, she makes a very good avenue to allow all of the things that she has deemed important, even before this life experience, to come through her in a way that is very powerful and valuable, you see. Now, did Esther reach out there and get Abraham? Who is Abraham? Is Abraham Benjamin Franklin just dead? Is Abraham Jesus dead? Or is Abraham, as you are experiencing Abraham, the culmination, the expression in words of all of the things that you are wanting to know and understand? And does Esther make up Abraham? In other words, is it only Esther's desires that have created what you know as Abraham? Or is everything that each of you are wanting a part of what you know as Abraham? You have access to infinite knowing upon every subject that you are able to conceive. And your role models just help you in your conceiving.